the act of worship, to consider those things worthful, those things worth our attention, to be about trying to find ways to speak to justice and hope and love in a society that's fragmented. I'm glad you're here. Let's make a good deal of it and have a good time this Sunday. This morning's topic is the spirituality of the Native people. It's about the story that's before us. I have a question. How do you know your identity? I'm a Mansfield. My daddy was a Mansfield. His daddy was a Mansfield. And so forth. Back to the time names were decided on. The Native American people, many of the Native American people, especially in the eastern United States, are known through their mother. Their clan, their identity, their understanding of who they are is through their mother, matriarchal. Now that presents some real interesting challenges for the identity of a Native American child. The stories I've read and the studies I've made of Native American people, especially the Iroquois and the Cherokee, same family, same clan, was that the father, biological father, was not necessarily the schoolmaster or the disciplinarian. The brother of the mother was. Now imagine what that would do to the issues we have, us boys, with our daddies. We don't have that. The father becomes the playmate, the teacher of fun, the gamesman, and Uncle Joe becomes the one who gets on your case. Well, the matriarchal system is an interesting foundation. When the first whites intercepted the Native Americans on their own land, when they discovered them, they noticed that the Cherokees were in the eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina. They noticed that the men were a lot stronger, a lot taller, and evidently lazy, because the men had the big chores, the big lifting chores. They would build the cabins, they would clear the fields, they would hunt the animals. But the women, they were the ones who tended the house, tended the gardens, made the decision domestically, taught their children, carried on all that was necessary. And there was a group of beloved women in the Cherokee people who were the Supreme Court. Now the elders, all the elders elected their chief, the white chief and the red chief. I'm wearing white today. I started to wear red to be the war chief, but I thought we've got enough crap about war right now. So the white chief was in charge of the domestic life with the beloved woman who was the chair of the Council of Women. They made decisions about how the crops were divided up, how the communal area would work the season to decide what crops were important. And when the men got mad or had some insurrection they needed to carry on against another Native American tribe, the women would go, no, I don't think so. They were the Supreme Court, they were the Senate, they were the arbitrary people for the Cherokee people to say, this is how we're going to go. Now, we don't know how that matriarchal society would work because the superior white people came over and brought diseases and killed most of the native folk. There's speculation that there were 45 million native people in the United States and North America at white contact. And the spirituality aspect of all this is that the native people understood that they were part and parcel of the land. Blue boat home, interdependent connection, relatedness to one to another. There is not a system, an understanding in native spirituality that says, you're separate from me. The wolf is separate from me. The deer is separate from me. The plant is separate from me. The creation stories are fantastic, how they come up with the idea of explaining some kind of understanding about what's important and how to answer the big questions. It's always speculation. What do you think? How do you think we got here? I don't know. Well, how about the animals were living in the heavens over water? And they had a council. And the bear is the chairman of the council. And they set the water beetle down. So the water beetle somehow got down into the water, dug to the depth of the bottom, and threw up mud. Well, that mud came to the top of the water, and then they set the buzzard, and the buzzard would fly down and sweep through it while the mud was still wet, and he made the Smoky Mountains. And then it was all dark. They did all of this in the dark. Well, they decided they better make the sun. So they made the sun. They don't say how they made the sun, but they mysteriously and mystically made the sun. And then the sun was given off. Oh, I didn't tell you how they made the sun. The sun was pricked from the water beetle found or made a clay basket. And they took a coal, live coal from the clay basket, and they brought it up to the top of the water, and they built a fire, and it started drying the clay. And then someone said, well, let's make it bright everywhere. So the buzzard took the live coal in his claws up to the heavens and gave light everywhere. And it gave 7 clans, and they gave it to 7 tribes. And you can select a tribe you want this morning, okay? This is the purpose of the class, to make sure you understand who you are. Because we've just decided that Mansfield is not exactly right. I should be Maddox. I should be Stevenson. I should be Harwell. You can be a wolf. There's some wolves in here. I know some of them. They're paint, deer. There's some fast people in here. Bird. I love this one. I know several in this room that belong to the potato clan. And they're blue. Blue. Okay. I like blue. I might go with blue. And then there's long hair. Now, history doesn't tell us. The stories don't tell us, so the white folks haven't learned them. But there are reasons for those names. And I think you can see how obvious it is. It's from nature and it's from life. I did more research. There is some about it. The paint were usually the clan who's the shamans, the teachers, the spiritual leaders, the medicine men and women were taken from. The paint clan. I'm not sure what that's about. The paint clan, they do masks to represent the different clans, and they're beautiful. I had a start of a collection one time, but I lost it on all my travels. And the paint was just a half of the mask, painted red, and the rest of it beautiful, beautiful oak. So the spiritual gifts that the native people I derived from my studies, I've met a fellow named William Thomas. William Thomas was a World War II veteran, and he was a Native American raised on the tribe in Oklahoma with his grandparents. He didn't speak English until he was in school with the whites, ran the schools in the 1920s, 30s. He was my dad's age. He was born in 1924. Well, Will Thomas became a scholar after World War II by going to Chicago, University of Chicago, for a PhD in anthropology. So he knocked out the education, got that, became a pretty good expert on anthropology, decided he had to figure out who his people were, what his identity was, and he went back to the people, and he set up in the 60s Native American Studies program at Arizona State University. Well, Will was working with the Western tribe in Oklahoma and the Eastern tribe in North Carolina, having the folks in North Carolina learn more of the native language from those in the West who had been more isolated in Oklahoma. You follow? In the 1830s, Andrew Jackson decided he's going to move all Indians out of the East. And he sent them all over the West, but mainly went to Oklahoma because it was a territory. And Oklahoma, which was known as the Indian Territory, was divided up under many of the different tribes, but the tribes of the Southeast, the 5 civilized tribes, the Cherokee, the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, was it Seminole? There's one more I can't remember. Okay, y'all know the story. If you haven't been to the Smoky Mountains, you owe a trip to the Smoky Mountains. Did you hear this week that they have that in the strike and the shutdown, the locals raised $2 million to keep Smoky Mountain Park open? And rather than going to New Jersey, Kathy and I are going to the Smokies next week after our wedding Saturday. So we're pretty excited about that. That's a memory trip for me because I went there when I was 5 with my family. And we would go back every time my granddaddy would decide he wanted a road trip. And he came home from Peoria, Illinois, where he worked for the Caterpillar Company. And we'd get in one of his old cars and make that road from Fayetteville, Tennessee to Cherokee, North Carolina on US 65 through the Oconee, where the Olympic canoeing was when the Olympics were in Knoxville, and visit that part of the world. So I grew up looking for my ancestors outside my window. And we figured for many, many generations that we had Native American people in us, a blood in me. And I was proud of that. So that's what got me started studying about it, because I was an Indian. Had to be a good Indian too, not a bad Indian. You know, there are differences in your choosing your identity. Well, I learned with Ancestry DNA, I don't have any Indian blood in me. But you sort of choose who your tribe is, team. Y'all are here. We choose what our identity is. We're born with biology, absolutely. And we've got inheritance from the past that shape us. I know some of the traits of my DNA that I don't like, and I know many I do like. But the image of who you are is what you become. Today is coming out day. Why do you need a coming out day? Why do people need to stand up to the world and say what they are? We're talking about what's now, not who. I'm a straight white male, big deal. That doesn't make me any different. That's just how I was spun out the wheel. And the wheel goes round and everybody becomes conditioned by their own inheritance, biological, and their cultural inheritance. And each of us are creative geniuses making it work. The Native American spirituality taught that. Earth religions teach that. We had a festival this weekend here. We had folks from Covenant of Unitarian Universalist Pagans sponsoring it. We had traffic through here that says we're uniquely who we are. You got a problem with that? We need that attitude sometimes, because right now you just sort of scared somebody's going to rat on you. Unitarian Universalist ministers are facing persecution for saying who they are. I haven't had the courage to be thrown in jail. I'm not sure y'all would bail me out, so let him sit there a while. Maybe he'll learn not to be such an upstart. Unitarian Universalism invites the world to travel with a sense of relatedness to that which is holy. What's holy, Doak? Life is holy. Can you imagine creation? Well, that's what we've been doing for generation on generation, imagining how creation happened. We've got gods in the sky. We've got gods in the water. We got the holy all around us in this building, in this presence today. That's a pretty nice thing. If you're going to be about life, you need to figure out what your right relationship with yourself is and the world around you. Love, what does that look like? Love means being kind and nice every day. What does that look like in a society? Well, it looks like civilization. What does it look like in a larger world? Well, it looks like, what did Jimmy Carter say? A great quilt. We're not a melting pot. We're not a big stew that's just yucky. Can you imagine a stew? I don't think I'd want any of that. But I sure can appreciate a quilt. I can sure appreciate a landscape that puts all the beauty in the art in the world, and the artist brings himself to that. See, that's what we are. We're artists painting our lives and living in the painting. I think I've just about talked this out. The Native American people sought balance and harmony. Balance within and harmony with all that is. If you use that watchword, balance and harmony, you get a sense of what's about. Abraham Lincoln said his religion is when he does something good, he feels good. That's not high theology, is it? But we count on some kind of inner compass to decide what's best for us. And what are the priorities of human beings? Our children, our home, our safety, our imaginings, our dreams. And life don't make no junk. Life does not make no junk. Life makes special gifts for us, for one another. The Cherokee said something like, "Aho!" So I'll say, "Aho!" Amen.
Did you know that the Great Spirit is revered by many Native American tribes as the creator and unifying force of the universe? Spanning across North America, Native American spirituality is rich with traditions that honor nature and the interconnectedness of all life. Central to these beliefs is the Great Spirit, a powerful entity that embodies wisdom and guidance, often represented through nature's elements. Many tribes hold ceremonies to connect with the Great Spirit, offering prayers and gratitude for the gifts of the earth, like the annual sun dance among the Plains tribes. This reverence for the Great Spirit shapes modern Native American identity, reminding us of the importance of harmony with nature and respect for all living beings. What does the Great Spirit mean to you? Comment below, and don't forget to like and follow for more captivating stories.
Granddaughter, the water can hear you. The water has memory.
Nibi,
Wabo,
Endayan,
Nibi, Wabo, Endayan, Aki Misli, Nibi, Wabo, Heya, 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 Hey, Heya, 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 Ho.
Water is the life's blood of our mother, the earth. Water is the lifeblood of our own body.
Nibi, Wabo, Endayan, Aki Misli, Nibi, Wabo, Heya, 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 Hey, Heya, 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 Ho.
To continue to pass on the knowledge that needs to be given unto the other generations. You are the keeper of the water.
Nibi, Wabo, Endayan, Aki Misli,
make the change in this life condition that we're in, that great-grandchildren will stand up to this truth of what life is about, and to live it in such an honorable way, the way ancestors came to this earth.
Libi wabo endayen aki miskwi libi wabo heya 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 hey heya 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 ho.
Each day when the sun rises, no matter how bad the day before might have been, there's a new chance for your hopes and dreams. And I say, Chimiigwech, thank you for singing the water song.
Nibi wabo endayen aki miskwi nibi wabo heya 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 hey heya 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 ho.
We have a treat this morning. James Shaw is going to speak to us about giving, and this is a man that knows everything about giving because that's how he lives his life week in and week out, giving to this community through his legal experience. James?
You're very kind. Thank you. So Pat asked me to tell you why I come here, and I hadn't taken the time to sit down and think about that in quite some time. And so I have to go back to when I was growing up. I attended Sunday school at a Methodist church. My mom was a Baptist, my dad was a Catholic, so of course they met in the middle at Methodism and kind of just dropped us off there, and you know, I learned what they taught me. I thought there was value in that. As I grew up, I liked the teachings of Jesus Christ, or at least the teachings attributed to him. He didn't actually write anything. We have to trust the note takers on that. But as I grew older, though, I kind of sensed a certain spiritual dishonesty in that community, that they didn't really believe the things that they said that they believed. That if I was to hook them up to a lie detector test and say, do you really believe this stuff? They would say, no, but it might be true, and it's worth going in there once a week just in case it's true, because I don't like the idea of being set on fire by someone who wants me to love him. So I didn't, you know, I was losing that. I liked the teachings, but I felt like they didn't really believe what they said that they believe. I'm vindicated in that now, as we see a cross sort of looks like a lowercase t. There's another man whose symbol is an uppercase T, and they seem to like his teachings better, and even though they are antithetical, and I was right that they didn't really believe what they were saying that they believed, but that left the question of, well, what instead then? And I can't put my finger on the first time that I heard about Unitarianism. It was probably The Simpsons. They made fun of Unitarians a lot, I think just because they decided that Unitarians can take the joke, but Garrison Keillor, same thing, he referenced them a lot. And I guess from the context of those jokes, I figured that it was probably some diluted, palatable form of Christianity. And now that I've been going here for about 15 years, I still don't really understand what it is. And But I'm zeroing in on it, as I think some of the rest of us are. But a friend of mine in college, I was a music major, and a friend of mine in college was, the Unitarian Church would hire some of the music students to, you know, we get people like James. and I remember her telling me that the sermon that whole Sunday was dissecting a poem by Walt Whitman, And I thought, well, that's lovely, but I don't know how spiritual that is. That sounds like more of a poetry class to me than something spiritual. But I think I've come to understand that there is spirituality in that. And I went to law school and I started working. And when you are a young person starting working, especially in a field like practicing law, it would be very easy to just wake up in the morning and work very hard all day and come home and eat and watch a little bit of TV and go to bed and wake up the next morning and do that again and again and again until one day you wake up and you are 70. That would have been very easy to do. And I think what interrupted that for me and what interrupts it for a lot of people is my daughter Claudia was born in 2007, and I started to think about how even though I ultimately came to reject a lot of what was fed to me as a child, I still embraced a lot of it and thought that there was value to having this 1 hour every Sunday morning where someone was teaching you that you should be a good person, you should care how your actions affect other people, you should do for others what you are able to do, and I wanted her to learn that without, or else you'll be set on fire for all eternity. I wanted to remove that part of it, and so I was looking for where I could find that, and I learned about the RE that was available here and thought, well, I'll come check it out. There's value to her getting that education, and there's value to spending 1 hour a week, even as an adult, thinking the why questions, like what exactly are we doing here? Why is there something instead of just nothing? What is the point of being a living spiritual being on this planet? What am I supposed to do while I'm here, and why am I doing it? Or are there even answers to these questions? You don't think about that while you're on the assembly line going, but you need to take the time to think about it, and if you don't set it aside, you might not. And there's value in group singing, in getting together with people and singing, especially singing the kinds of songs that we sing about the joy of life and our obligations why we're here. And there was history to the Unitarians that impressed me, that it seemed like they were on the right side of everything at the time. And I think, the Baptists were all for slavery at the time. Now they say, oh, we see that was a bad thing. But at the time they were, crack open the book, see if you can find something that sort of justifies it. There it is. That was how they thought. But the Unitarians were against it. The Unitarians were for women's suffrage. The Unitarians were on the right side of everything at the time, not just retrospectively. And I thought, well, maybe there's something there that for me to find. So coincidentally, the night before I came here to check it out, I had a long conversation with an old friend about the short story, The Ones Who Walked Away from Omelas, or maybe it's Omelas, I don't know, it's a book, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, it's a fictional town, but by Ursula K. Le Guin, and it's a story about, that examines the question of, is it okay to be happy when someone else is suffering? Is it okay to be happy when your happiness is due to someone else's suffering? Can you really feel that? And it was a deep conversation I had with an old friend, and so I came here the next morning and to check it out, and Sarah Zimmerman's sermon was on a short story called The Ones Who Walked Away from Omelas. And I don't know if I believe in signs, or I don't really look for things. I don't know if anybody's really focused on me enough to arrange something like that, but I do think that you when you share the same values with somebody, you talk about the same things. And I remember having a strong feeling of, okay, I think I found the place. I think these are my people. I think this is where I should be right now. So this feels like home. So Claudia regularly attended RE until she was old enough to say that she was too cool, and that's okay. Claudia will turn 18 in December, and the homecoming goth dress last night was amazing, but you'll see her magic trick is still the stuff of church legends that she performed once. But at some point that stopped being the reason that I was coming. I would come by myself without the rest of my family because it felt like home. And I got deeper involved, and there were I was asked if I would serve on the board because someone thought, hey, it would be nice to have a lawyer on the board. And if those who served with me remember that I had my second son, Dean, at the time, and I would bring him in a car carrier, and at least at first I could sit him on the table like a paperweight, and he would sleep through the whole thing. But by the third year, he was 3, if you do that math, and would run around, and I'd chase him until my wife would get off of work and come relieve everybody of that, which thank you all for tolerating my my childcare situation there. But through the board service, I got to know you all better, and I got to meet all these fascinating, interesting people that I could learn from and that I could also teach. I met David Reddy, just a very wise man that I learned so much from just by serving on the board with him. Bill Blymiller and David Stickle always just, there was something about him that I just loved that I remember going to a Shag Shaft meeting and he was there. And it's one thing to be an atheist, it's another thing to be a 95-year-old atheist. I mean, you are not trying to hedge your bets. And I remember being asked if I would do the auction, and somebody had offered the 12-year subscription, or I'm sorry, the 12-month subscription to the Soup of the Month Club. They would deliver a new soup to you every month, and 95-year-old David bid on that. And I was like, that's the kind of confidence that I like. And these are my people. But I met so many fascinating people, and there were full moon celebrations, and there were concerts, and there were music nights, and there were discussion groups, and there was a spiritual humility here that was the antithesis of what I grew up with. There was nobody who was saying, I'm the one who has all the answers, and here's what they are. No, you're wrong. This is what it. No one was saying that. It was, we have all the same questions that you have, and we're just as curious as you are with the answers. Let's see if we can figure it out. And I like that. And so it was, to go back to the question I was asked, why am I here? I can't put my finger on any one of those things and say that's the reason I'm here. It's music night, it's discussion group. I'm here because it felt like home from the first minute, and it still feels like home. And that's why I'm a part of this church, and that's why I come, and that's why I contribute financially, and that's why I contribute what little time I have at this phase in my life. There will be more later, I promise. But everybody needs to have a spiritual home, and for me, this is it. So I look out at you and I say, this is a lot of funerals I'm gonna have to go to, but it's okay because someday there will be others who will go to mine, and this already is a group that the people who started this church are all gone, and they were replaced by new people and will be replaced by new people, but they started something and that was worth keeping going, and I'm glad that in these times that this is here, and I need it to be here for the people who are coming, because they're going to need it. So thank you.
My journey began 51 years ago as a Unitarian Universalist. Within a few years, I became a Unitarian Universalist minister, and have been that for a long time now. I'm retiring in January, and I'm going to get married, as you know. I'll quit talking about it once it's done, I promise. So I hope you'll send some good thoughts next Saturday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, Central Time, that'd be 1 o'clock here, to wish us well. Take the light with you. You brought it in. We rekindled it together. We're taking it back out to the world. There's darkness, darkness, darkness. And the idea of saying yes to life rather than the no that everybody likes to abide in is what the world needs. Let us be agents of yes. Go in peace. I love you.